You open your eyes, and the first thing you see is a Vought camera in the corner of the ceiling. Red light. Always on, the kind of camera that doesn't blink and doesn't forget. Butcher is to your left. Kimiko is against the wall. And somewhere between the cold of the floor and the hum of the ventilation system, you remember how you got here. You were born in a laboratory, not the kind with screaming and straps, but the kind with morning coffee and a woman named Dr. Irene, who read you books when you were small and never once called you a project. You grew up behind a fence that looked like a garden. You learned to fly at 7 over a lawn, while Marcus stood below and pretended not to be terrified. You learned to control the heat behind your eyes at 10 after you burned a hole through the library wall, and the only consequence was a conversation about how to do better. You had powers that could level buildings and the temperament of someone who had never been given a reason to use them that way. Then Butcher's team showed up. They showed you a video of a man with your face walking away from a falling plane, and you walked out the gate and into a war you didn't start. You helped them. You learned what Vought was. You learned what Homelander was. You learned what the difference between you and him came down to, which was not genetics or ability or the specific combination of compounds that built you both, but something simpler and more stubborn. You were raised by people who loved you. He was raised by a corporation that needed him. That difference is the only thing standing between the world and whatever Homelander decides to do with it next. Last time ended with all of you in a cell. Now we begin again. The cell is Vaught's standard issue. Clean, white. Designed by people who understood that the appearance of civilization is easier to maintain when the rooms look civilized. You sit on the floor because the floor is more honest than the cot. Butcher sits on the cot anyway, which is very Butcher. Kimiko sits against the wall, with her knees up and her eyes tracking everything that moves because Kimiko's body never fully learned to stop being in danger, even when the immediate danger has temporarily paused. The three of you have not spoken in 6 hours. This is not tension. This is the specific silence of people who have assessed the situation from every available angle and arrived at the same conclusion, which is that the situation is bad, and talking about it doesn't make it less bad. Then the door opens and Homelander walks in. He does not look like a man who has just won. He looks like a man who has been waiting to win for so long that the winning has not yet connected to the feeling he expected it to produce. You know this look. You have spent a year studying his face and news footage and leaked videos and the specific quality of his public performances, looking for the gap between the performance and the person underneath it. The gap is always there. It is enormous. It is the gap that everything terrible about him lives in. He looks at you. He says, "We could rule this together, you and me. There is no one on this planet who could stop us." You look at him. You look at your brother, who has your face and your voice and nothing else in common with you, and you think about the people who built you separately and what they were trying to create and what they actually created, and you say, "No." He looks at Butcher. He says what he says next with the specific tone of someone testing whether a line they've rehearsed produces the effect they intended. "Kill him," he says. "Prove it." Butcher doesn't move. Butcher's face does the thing it does when he is in a room with a superhero who could kill him instantly and is choosing not to show that he knows this. Butcher has been in a lot of rooms like this. You look at your brother and you say, "I'm not going to do that." Homelander looks at you for a long moment. Something moves through his expression that is not quite disappointment, and not quite recognition, and not quite the thing that would be loneliness if he had learned to name feelings correctly. Then he leaves. The door closes, the lock engages. Butcher looks at you. You look at the door. You don't speak. There is nothing to say. You made the choice you were always going to make, and now you sit with it and wait for whatever the choice costs. 3 hours later, a note slides under the cell door. You pick it up before Butcher sees it. The handwriting is precise and controlled, in the way of someone who does everything with precision and control. The message is short. It says that the writer is prepared to release one person from this cell tonight. It says the writer wants Soldier Boy dead. It says the writer knows you are the only person in this building currently capable of making that happen. It says there is a window of 40 minutes, starting at midnight when Homelander will not be in the building. It is not signed. It does not need to be signed. You have been in Vought Tower long enough to learn the rhythms of the building and the people in it, and there is only one member of the 7 whose handwriting would look like this, and whose reasons for wanting Soldier Boy dead would be both personal and operational simultaneously. Black Noir. You show Butcher the note. He reads it. His expression does not change because Butcher's expression rarely changes, but something behind it shifts in the specific way that means he is recalculating. "Go," he says. You look at him. "Go," he says again. "And when you're out there, come back for us." It is the closest thing to trust that Butcher has ever expressed to you directly, and it lands the way those things land when they come from someone who does not give them easily. Midnight. Black Noir is outside the cell door when it opens. He is wearing the suit and the mask and the specific quality of stillness that he carries everywhere. The stillness of someone who has been performing the absence of personality for so long that the performance has become indistinguishable from the person. He hands you nothing. He simply turns and walks, and you follow. The building is not quiet exactly. Buildings like this are never fully quiet, but the frequency of movement has changed. The security rotation has a gap in it that someone created deliberately. A gap that exists for exactly the next 38 minutes and will close again without explanation. You trigger the fire alarm on the 14th floor. This is not in the note. This is your addition. Because a building evacuation means every civilian employee in the tower is moving toward exits and away from whatever is about to happen in Soldier Boy's containment suite, and you were raised by people who understood that power without restraint costs the people who didn't choose to be involved, and you have never once forgotten that. The alarm fills the building with sound and with movement and with the specific organized chaos of a protocol being followed by people who are trying to do their jobs correctly in a situation that is not covered by their training. You move through it the way you move through everything, with the directness of someone who knows where they are going and why. Soldier Boy's suite is on the 53rd floor. The door opens. He is standing in the middle of the room in the specific posture of someone who has been contained long enough that standing in the middle of a room is the most aggressive position available to him. He looks at Black Noir. His face does something complicated. Decades of history compressed into a single expression that contains resentment and recognition and the specific contempt of a man who was betrayed by someone he considered beneath him. Black Noir moves first. He moves the way Black Noir moves, which is fast and precise and without the theatrical quality that most supers bring to violence. The first hit lands. Soldier Boy takes it and turns it into something. He catches Black Noir on the return and puts him into the wall with enough force that the wall records the impact in permanent structural terms. Black Noir hits the wall and slides down it and does not immediately get up. You fire. The laser hits Soldier Boy in the chest, and the physics of it are straightforward. He goes backward through the floor-to-ceiling window of a 53rd floor suite, and the air outside receives him with complete indifference to his preferences on the matter. You watch him fall, then you run. The cells are on the lower floors, and you cover the distance the way you cover distances when you can move faster than elevators, which is through stairwells, and with the fire alarm still providing cover noise. The lock on the cell door does not survive contact with you. Butcher and Kimiko are on their feet before you finish opening it, which means they were on their feet before they heard you coming, which means they were ready, which means they trusted that you were coming back. Kimiko goes. Butcher goes 3 steps toward the door and then turns back. "There is a laboratory 2 floors up," he says. "V24. I need more." You look at him. "I know what I'm doing," he says. The tone of a man who does not entirely know what he is doing, but has committed to it in a way that arguing will not undo. The laboratory is 2 floors up, and the building is in the specific controlled chaos of a fire alarm evacuation, which means most of the staff have left and the security presence has redistributed toward the exits. Most, not all. The train is there. He sees Butcher, and he moves with the speed of someone who has had the V24 compound in his system long enough to have integrated it completely. He is fast. Faster than he should be. Fast enough that the gap between him and Butcher closes before Butcher has finished registering that it's closing. But Butcher took the serum too, the vial he found on the shelf before the train reached him. Compound V24, which he injected in the 3 seconds between seeing the train and the train seeing him, which is either very good timing or very reckless behavior presented as good timing. The difference does not matter because the result is the same. Butcher's hand closes around the train's throat with the grip of someone who is currently running on something that rewrites what his body is capable of. The train stops. He is held there by a man who should not be able to hold him by a hand that should not have that grip. and the expression on his face is the expression of someone encountering a variable they did not account for. You step into the doorway. "Butcher," you say. Butcher holds. His arm is shaking with the specific tremor of someone at the edge of what they can control. "Butcher," you say again. "Not today." He looks at you. The shaking continues. Then he releases. The train drops to the floor and does not get up immediately, which is either the serum or the loss of air or the specific shock of having been stopped by a human being, and he needs a moment to process which it is. You take Butcher's arm and you leave. The stairwell, the emergency exit, the street outside where the evacuated employees are standing at the designated assembly points with the specific energy of people who are following a procedure and starting to suspect that the procedure is not covering the full scope of what is happening. Then the ground shakes. You know what it is before you look up. You know the specific frequency of a compound V detonation from the research you did in the first months after you found out what you were. Because knowing what can kill you is the first step toward not being killed by it. You look up at the 53rd floor. Soldier Boy came back up. Of course he came back up. You dropped him 53 floors, but you did not kill him. And things that do not die come back. And Soldier Boy specifically comes back, because Soldier Boy has been coming back from things that should have finished him for longer than most people have been alive. He is on the stairwell when you find him. The building around you is the building of somewhere that recently had a fire alarm evacuation and then a structural event and is now having the specific crisis of both happening in the same time window. The lights are emergency lighting. The sounds are wrong. The air has the quality it gets when the building systems are working harder than they were designed to work. He grabs you. His hands close around your arms with the specific force of someone who has decided that if he is going to detonate, he is going to take you with him because you are the thing that put him out a window, and the accounting for that has not been completed to his satisfaction. The warmth starts immediately. The specific warmth of the detonation beginning to build in his chest, radiating outward, a weapon that he carries inside him, that he can choose to release or choose to hold, depending on what he wants to cost himself. He looks at you. Butcher hits him from the side. The V-24 is still running in Butcher's system, and the hit is not the hit of a human being. It is the hit of something that the compound has temporarily made into something else. And Soldier Boy's grip breaks and the detonation goes off, and the stairwell absorbs it in the specific way that stairwells absorb things, which is by not being a stairwell anymore in that section. The floor comes down. You are aware of this in the fragmented way that you are aware of things when the information is arriving faster than the processing, stone and steel, and the building making sounds that buildings make when portions of them have stopped being structural. The specific darkness of a space that no longer has ceiling lights because the ceiling has moved. Then nothing. You wake up on a warehouse floor. Kimiko is sitting next to you. She has the expression of someone who has done something very difficult and is not going to discuss how difficult it was. Beside you, 6 feet away, Butcher is on his back staring at the ceiling with the expression of a man who expected to die and keeps not dying and has started to find the pattern both reassuring and suspicious. Your leg is wrong in a way that is improving as you become more conscious. The body working on itself, knitting things back together at the rate that your specific biology works at, which is faster than it should be and slower than you would prefer. You look at Kimiko. She looks back. You say, "French?" Her face answers before she does. You don't say anything else. Outside the tower, on the other side of the city, 3 people who were not on the base when it was taken are sitting in a building that smells like old coffee and the particular combination of anxiety and planning that has become the ambient atmosphere of everything connected to fighting Vought. Huey has a laptop open. Annie is standing at the window, not looking at anything outside it. Marvin is doing the thing Marvin does when he is thinking, which is cleaning something that doesn't need cleaning with the focused attention of a man applying his hands to a small problem, because the large problem does not have a surface he can work on. The television is on in the corner. Victoria Neuman is at a podium. "Everything you were told about Vought was a lie," she says. "The people who threatened Vought's mission of safety and service to the American public have been apprehended." She looks directly into the camera when she says this, which is either the sign of someone telling the truth or the sign of someone who has practiced looking like they're telling the truth for long enough that the difference has become irrelevant. Huey closes the laptop. Marvin stops cleaning. Annie turns from the window. They look at each other with the specific expression of people who have just watched the board reconfigure itself in a way that makes the game considerably harder. "The first thing is getting you out," Annie says. Marvin says, "Agreed." Huey says, "He's the only one who can match Homelander. Without him, we're 3 people with 1 superpower and a death wish." This is accurate, and they all know it is accurate, and none of them particularly enjoy how accurate it is, but the situation does not adjust itself based on how they feel about it. Victoria Neuman's building at night looks like the building of someone who has calculated exactly what kind of building, communicates exactly what she wants to communicate. Serious. Accessible. The building of a public servant rather than a politician. They find her on the 3rd floor. She is with her daughter. The daughter is young and completely unconcerned with the 3 strangers who have appeared in her home at 11 at night. Victoria sends the daughter to another room with the practiced ease of someone who has been managing the intersection of her family and her work for years. She looks at them. She is very calm, the specific calm of a person who has made a decision that cost them everything and is living in the aftermath of that cost. Not the calm of someone who is at peace. The calm of someone who has accepted that peace is no longer one of the available options. She says, "I can only protect my family." She says, "This was the only way." Annie starts to respond. Marvin puts his hand on her arm. Then the sound. A coordinated entry team in the stairwell. The specific cadence of boots that are moving with purpose and training. Victoria looks at Annie. She hands her something. A piece of paper, folded once. Her expression when she does this is not the expression of a woman who has made peace with her choices. It is the expression of a woman paying a debt in the only currency currently available to her. They go out the window. In the car, Huey opens the paper. 1 word. Virus. The laboratory where you were raised is 40 minutes outside the city. The people who worked there were the closest thing to a family that the corporate architecture of your childhood allowed. Dr. Irene, Marcus, the researchers who became something adjacent to friends in the way that people become adjacent to friends when the circumstances they share are unusual enough to substitute for the ordinary foundations of friendship. They are all dead. Marvin goes through the files with the methodical efficiency of someone who has been doing this long enough to know what he's looking for before he knows what it is. 1 address appears on 3 separate documents, not a Vought address. A farm outside the city. The farm is abandoned in the way that things are abandoned when they are still being used but want to look like they aren't. The entrance to the underground laboratory is behind a false wall in the barn that Marvin finds because Marvin has been doing this for 20 years. And because Huey noticed that the floor was slightly too clean in 1 specific rectangle near the north wall. Inside, active equipment, the kind that someone has been working on recently and continuously. The man who attacks them is scared and thin, and has been alone long enough that the arrival of other people short-circuited his ability to process them as anything other than danger. They calm him down. He is Samir, Victoria Neuman's husband. He describes the virus in the careful language of someone explaining the most important thing he has ever done to people who might not fully understand it. The virus targets the genetic sequence that Compound Vi activates, permanent, complete. Every super who is exposed loses their abilities. Every super. Huey looks at Marvin. Marvin looks at Starlight. Starlight thinks about the word every and what it contains. Then Homelander arrives through the barn roof. He found out through Sage, who is the intelligence of the 7, and whose particular ability is understanding the shape of information networks well enough to trace anything back to its source. Sage found the trail from Victoria's message to Starlight, and from Starlight's conversation to the farm address, and from the farm address to Samir's name. Homelander went to Victoria first. The specific quality of satisfaction underneath his urgency makes this clear. He found out what he needed to find out, and the finding out cost Victoria something that he enjoyed costing her. He walks into the laboratory. He finds Samir. He fires his laser before Samir has finished the sentence he was in the middle of saying, because Homelander does not negotiate with scientists who are working on his only vulnerability. Annie goes at him. She goes at him with everything she has because there is no other option available, and because Annie January has never found an option unavailable and failed to take it. She is fast and strong and completely outmatched, and she knows it and does it anyway. Homelander catches her by the throat and holds her there. Huey has the pill. the single dose of the virus that Samir had prepared in delivery form. He throws it upward into the air above the struggle. The trajectory is not elegant. It is the trajectory of someone acting on instinct and hoping the instinct is good enough. Marvin shoots it. The pill detonates in the air above Annie and Homelander, and the dispersal cloud covers both of them in the specific indiscriminate way that dispersal clouds cover things, which is without regard for who is supposed to be affected and who is not. Homelander drops Annie. Marvin picks up Annie. They run. Behind them, Homelander is on the floor of the laboratory doing something he has never done in years of public existence, which is struggling with something and losing. The virus is a biological process, and biological processes take time. And what he is experiencing right now is the first minutes of that process, which feel like the floor dropping out from under something he has never been able to imagine being without. His laser vision flickers. His strength is present and then reduced and then present again. He reaches for the certainty of what he is and finds it undermined. He reports the escape. The soldier who brings the report is a Vought operative doing his job with professional correctness. Homelander hits him several times. The hits land without their usual force. The soldier is alive. He is in pain. Homelander stands over him and looks at his own hands with the expression of someone who has just discovered that the thing they considered permanent is not permanent. He calls Sage. Sage is the person Homelander calls when the situation requires intelligence rather than force. She tells him what the virus does and what the timeline is. The information is delivered in the flat tone of someone presenting facts without the performance of reassurance, because Sage understands that Homelander's relationship with reassurance is complicated, and she has never been interested in managing it. He flies back to the tower. The tower is half destroyed. Soldier Boy left an architectural signature in the north face that will require significant explanation. Homelander finds Sage outside, standing next to an unconscious security operative, looking at the building with the specific expression of someone running calculations about a situation that has developed more variables than the original model contained. The Vought headquarters moves to the secondary facility. Smaller, more defensible, fewer windows. The kind of building that communicates that whoever is inside it has stopped performing confidence and started practicing survival. The situation has changed. You wake up on a warehouse floor. The reunion happens when Marvin and Starlight and Huey arrive, and the information exchange happens the way information exchanges happen after operations that went partially wrong, which is quickly and without the luxury of processing any individual piece before the next one arrives. The virus exists. Samir is dead. One dose was used. What remains is the process for making more, which died with Samir, and the blood of anyone who was exposed to the dispersal, which carries a diluted but present version of the compound. Butcher looks at Starlight. He says, her blood. Marvin says, no. Butcher says, one small sample, enough to reconstruct the compound, enough to end this permanently. Starlight says, you mean permanently for every super, including the ones who didn't choose this. Butcher says, yes. The room divides in the way rooms divide when the argument being had is not about tactics but about the thing underneath tactics, which is what kind of people you are, and what you are willing to do, and where the line is, and who gets to draw it. Kimiko stands up. She moves to Butcher's side of the room. She does not look at Huey or Starlight when she does this. She looks at the floor. The grief on her face is the grief of someone making a decision that costs them something specific and has decided to pay it anyway. Butcher moves fast, faster than he should be able to. The knife is out, and the cut is made, and the blood is in the ampule before the room has fully processed that it is happening. Starlight looks at her own arm with an expression that is not pain and not anger, but something older than either. Kimiko and Butcher leave. The door closes. The four of you who remain stand in the warehouse in the silence of a team that has just become a smaller team, and the reasons for the reduction are not clean enough to process yet. Huey wraps Starlight's arm. She lets him. This small domestic act in the middle of everything is the most honest thing that happens in the warehouse that evening. You look at the door. You think about Kimiko's face when she stood up. You think about French, who is not here, and what his absence means to her, and how grief moves through people in directions that the people who love them can't always follow. Then you think about Sage. Sage is the intelligence of the Seven. She is the reason Homelander's operation functions above the level of brute force and intimidation. She is the mind behind the positioning, the strategy, the specific way that Vought has managed to take a public relations catastrophe and reframe it as a law enforcement success. Without Sage, Homelander is a powerful man with no strategy. Without Sage, the Seven is a collection of abilities without direction. You explain this. Marvin listens with the attention of a man who has been doing this long enough to know when someone is right. Starlight listens with the attention of someone who used to be inside the organization being discussed, and is applying that knowledge to what she's hearing. Huey listens with the attention of someone who trusts the people in the room and is trying to understand exactly what they're planning before he agrees to it. We start with Sage, you say. We take away the brain, then we work on the rest. There is a party. You find out about it through the specific network of people who owe other people favors and are willing to pass information sideways for reasons that are not always clear. The party is private, not Vought, not official. A gathering of supers who exist outside the corporate framework, who found each other in the way that people with unusual things in common find each other when the world is not organized for their particular combination of attributes. Tech Knight will be there. Tech Knight is a detective and a super, and a person with resources and connections and a specific relationship with the truth that makes him both useful and complicated simultaneously. He has had interactions with the Seven that were not entirely amicable, which means he has motivations that could align with yours under the right circumstances. The party is in 3 days. You look at your team. Marvin, Starlight, Huey. 3 people and a plan that has more shape than it had yesterday and less certainty than you would prefer. This is, you have learned, the normal condition of everything you do. That is what it means to be the version of the weapon that was supposed to stay hidden. You were built for a purpose you were never told about, raised by people who loved you in a facility designed for something else, and you walked out the gate and into a world that was not prepared for someone like you to be on the wrong side of the fence. Homelander is weakened, Vought is reorganizing. The virus that could end all of it is in Butcher's hands and moving in a direction you can't control. Sage is the mind behind the operation that is hunting you. You have a party to attend. You have a mind to dismantle. And somewhere in a secondary facility on the edge of the city, your brother is sitting in a room trying to rebuild what you broke, and you are the reason he can't finish it. Subscribe, because next time the party starts. And some parties end very differently than they begin.